腿小萌阅读陪
Rabbit and Owl lived in a big old oak tree. They loved their huge old tree. It made them feel safe and warm. They slept all day in the warm, cozy tree. When night came, Owl would wake up. He would open his eyes as wide as saucers. He loved to see the stars and moon twinkle in the night sky. Every night, Owl would fly down to see Rabbit. Every night, Rabbit would wait for Owl. Then they would talk all night long. They had been very best friends for years. One night, Owl woke up and went to see Rabbit, but Rabbit wasn't there. Owl called, "Hello, Rabbit," but Rabbit didn't answer. Owl called again, "Rabbit, Rabbit, where are you?" Rabbit still didn't answer, so Owl went into Rabbit's burrow. Rabbit was there alone. "Rabbit, are you okay?" asked Owl, but Rabbit still didn't answer. "Rabbit, my old friend, answer me," said Owl, but Rabbit didn't answer. He just looked down. Owl thought Rabbit looked very, very sad indeed. So Owl hooted loudly. He hooted like a fire engine. He hooted like an ambulance. He hooted like an owl who wants his friend to smile. Rabbit still didn't smile. "What's the matter?" said Owl. Rabbit still didn't answer. "What's the matter, my old friend?" asked Owl. "Oh, I'm not old. I am 8, said Rabbit. Owl didn't know what to say. "I am 8, said Rabbit again. "I am 8 today." Then Owl did know what to say. "Happy birthday, Rabbit," said Owl. Rabbit still looked sad. "Today is my birthday," he said, "but no one has remembered. No one has ever remembered. I have never had a real birthday." Owl didn't know what to say, and he didn't know what to do. He needed to think, but he could only think his best thoughts on his thinking branch at the top of the tree. So he flew up to his thinking branch. Owl thought very hard. What is a real birthday? And then his best thoughts came. He thought birthday card. He thought birthday present. And then his thoughts came faster and faster. Birthday party, birthday games, birthday cake. Then he had an even better thought. Birthday cabbage. Rabbit loved cabbage, and they could have the party in the garden with the big cabbage. Owl flew to his hole as fast as he could. He wrote birthday invitations as fast as he could. Then he gave out the invitations as fast as he could. Then Owl flew down to the garden with the big cabbage. The stars lit up the cabbage patch. "What a lovely place for a party," said Owl. Then Owl flew to Rabbit's burrow. "Rabbit," he cried, "come out." Rabbit came out. He looked startled. "Follow me quickly," cried Owl. So they raced off into the moonlit night. Fox, badger, squirrel, and bat were in the garden. "Happy birthday!" Happy birthday, Rabbit! 8 today! They all had birthday presents for Rabbit. Bat even gave him a flying display. Bat flew upside down in the light of the moon. Wonderful, thought Owl. Thank you, said Rabbit. What next? He asked. Birthday party games? Asked Owl. So they played hopscotch and passed the carrot. Thank you, said Rabbit. What next? He asked. Birthday cake? Asked Badger. Birthday cabbage, said Owl. He lit the candle and everybody sang. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Rabbit, happy birthday to you. Then Rabbit blew out the candle. You must make a birthday wish, said Owl. What could I wish for? Asked Rabbit. He gave lots of little jumps and one big one. You could wish for a slice of birthday cabbage, said Owl. Later, Owl and Rabbit talked all night. Well, Rabbit, said Owl, was it a real birthday? Oh, yes, said Rabbit. It was a very real birthday. Thank you so much, Owl.
What is a burrow? A burrow is a hole or tunnel. A burrow is a branch. A burrow is an outdoor place to plant vegetables. A burrow is a place in which people can play lots of games.
《屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
Walrus lived on the cold ice at the North Pole. One day, Walrus said, I would love to go and see my friend Penguin. So Walrus left his home and set off on the long journey to the South Pole. Penguin lived on the cold ice at the South Pole. On the very same day, Penguin said, I would love to go and see my friend Walrus. So Penguin left her home and set off on the long journey to the North Pole. Walrus had not gone far when he met some huskies. They took him for a ride in a sleigh. Walrus was so excited that he sent a postcard to Penguin. Dear Penguin, I am on my way to visit you. Today, I went for a ride in a sleigh. I can't wait to see you. Love, Walrus. Meanwhile, Penguin was in Australia. She met some friendly kangaroos. They showed her how to jump. Penguin was so excited that she sent a postcard to Walrus. Dear Walrus, I am on my way to visit you. I am having fun jumping with the kangaroos. I will see you soon. Love, Penguin. Meanwhile, Walrus swam and swam until he came to Hawaii. He met some people on the beach. They put on a garland of flowers around his neck and showed him how to dance. Walrus couldn't wait to tell Penguin, so he sent her a postcard. Dear Penguin, I am still on my way to visit you. I learned to dance today. I can't wait to see you. Love, Walrus. Meanwhile, Penguin traveled on. She came to China. She saw a wonderful firework display and a dancing dragon. Penguin sent Walrus a postcard. Dear Walrus, I can't wait to tell you about the wonderful fireworks and the dancing dragon. I will see you soon. Love, Penguin. Walrus came to a rainforest in Brazil where he met a parrot. I am too hot, said Walrus. I am too hot, said the parrot. I miss my nice eyes, said Walrus. I miss my nice eyes, said the parrot. Goodbye, said Walrus. Goodbye, said the parrot. Walrus sent a postcard to Penguin. Dear Penguin, I am in a hot rainforest with a talking parrot. I wish you were here. I miss my nice eyes and I can't wait to see you. Love, Walrus. Walrus and Penguin traveled over land and sea until they came to Egypt. Walrus went to look at the pyramids. Penguin went to look at the pyramids. Then they met. Walrus, it's you! Laughed Penguin. Penguin, it's you! Laughed Walrus. They were so happy to see each other. Then they had some adventures together. They had a ride on a train, a camel train. They visited a museum. Walrus learned another dance. After that, to cool off, they had a ride down the river Nile. This is life, said Penguin. This is the life, said Walrus. Soon it was time to say goodbye. Walrus wanted to go home to the North Pole. Penguin wanted to go home to the South Pole. I miss my nice eyes, said Walrus. Me too, said Penguin. Walrus went home to the North Pole. What a lot of postcards from Penguin, he said. He sent another postcard to Penguin. Dear Penguin, it was good to see you. I hope you got home safely. See you again soon. Love, Walrus. P.S. I miss you, but it's nice to be home. Penguin went home to the South Pole. What a lot of postcards from Walrus, she said. She sent another postcard to Walrus. Dear Walrus, this is the first time that I have been halfway around the world, but I hope it will not be the last. We may be poles apart, but we're the best of friends. Love, Penguin.
Please put the pictures in right order.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
Jumping Jack. Mom was out. My big brother Dave was watching TV. I was playing a computer game called Jumping Jack. In the game, Jumping Jack was looking for his dog. He was jumping around everywhere. He jumped from hill to hill. Then he jumped from reef to reef, but he couldn't find his dog. Today, Jumping Jack got to another level. He jumped over volcanoes and dinosaurs, but he still couldn't find his dog. Jumping Jack went to the next level. He saw his dog, but the dog was locked up in a house. Jack had a rusty old key. He put it in the lock, but it didn't fit. Jumping Jack was so angry that he jumped up and down all over the screen. Suddenly, he jumped right out of the screen and onto my desk. He knocked over a box of discs. "Hey!" I shouted. Jumping Jack paid no attention. He jumped off the desk, down to the floor, and out of the room. I followed him into the kitchen. Jumping Jack jumped up onto the table. He knocked over a pot of jam. "Stop!" I shouted. Jumping Jack jumped up into the cupboard. He jumped about and made a great mess. He spilled the coffee. He knocked over some cans. Then he put a bottle into his sack. "What's that?" I asked. Jumping Jack paid no attention. He jumped back to the table and down to the floor. Then he jumped out of the kitchen and up the stairs. I followed him into the bathroom. Jumping Jack jumped into the sink and out again. I tried to grab him, but he jumped up into the bathroom cabinet. He spilled Mom's shampoo and knocked over my brother's shaving cream. Then he put a bottle into his sack. "Hey, what are you doing?" I shouted, but Jumping Jack was off again. He jumped back down the stairs and into the workroom. He knocked over the toolbox and spilled some paint. Then he grabbed a can and put it in his sack. "Stop that!" I shouted, but Jumping Jack was off again. I followed him back to the computer. He jumped onto the desk and back into the screen. Just then, I heard a car drive up. Mom was back. "What's all this?" she asked when she saw the mess in the kitchen. "Jumping Jack did it," I said. "Oh no," said Mom when she saw the mess in the bathroom. "It was Jumping Jack," I said. "Look at this mess," shouted Mom when she looked in the workroom. "Jumping Jack made the mess, not me," I said. Just then, my brother called out, "Mom, Tess, look at this." He had stopped watching TV and was watching Jumping Jack on the computer instead. Jumping Jack had just taken something out of his sack. It was a bottle. "Hey," said Mom, "that's my cooking oil." Jumping Jack poured some oil in the log and tried the rusty key. It didn't turn. He took another bottle out of his sack. "That's my bath oil," said Mom. Jumping Jack tried the bath oil, but the key still didn't turn. Jumping Jack looked in his sack again. "That's a tool oil," said Dave. Jumping Jack poured a drop of the tool oil in the lock. He tried the key again. This time it turned in the lock. Jumping Jack opened the door of the old house. Out ran his dog and jumped into Jumping Jack's arms. Then Jumping Jack turned around and looked at us. He had a big smile on his face. Thank you for the oil, he said. Thanks to you, I got my dog back.
Where did
John 腿小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本集内容由海豚传媒出品。
Chloe the chameleon. Chloe the chameleon was good at catching flies. Chloe could see the flies, but they couldn't see her. Then, with a flick and a lick, she got them. One day, Chloe was sitting on a big red flower. Chloe was red too. Suddenly, a fly landed on Chloe's nose. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The fly went on to an orange flower. Chloe went after the fly. Soon, Chloe was orange too. Then the fly landed on Chloe's nose. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The fly went on to some yellow sand. Chloe followed the fly, and soon Chloe was yellow too. Then the fly landed on Chloe's nose. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The fly landed on a green leaf. Chloe climbed the tree, and soon Chloe was as green as the leaf. Then the fly landed on Chloe's nose. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The fly flew up into the blue sky. Chloe climbed up the tree, and soon Chloe was as blue as the sky. Chloe saw the fly, but the fly didn't see Chloe. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The fly flew up into the sky. Chloe climbed up the tree. The sky got darker. Soon the sky was indigo. Chloe was indigo too. Chloe saw the fly, but the fly didn't see Chloe. A flick, a lick, but the fly was too quick. It got away. The sky got darker and darker. Soon it was violet, and Chloe was violet too. Then it began to rain. With a flick and a lick, Chloe was quick. This time she got the fly. But Chloe slipped. She fell down, down, down through the rainbow. Chloe sat in the sun and waited for another fly.
What's the color? Please match the words with the pictures.
John 腿小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本集内容由海豚传媒出品。
How Turtle Got His Shell. Once there was a turtle who didn't have a shell. He lived next door to a parrot who had a beautiful garden. One day, Turtle looked into Parrot's garden. I can see delicious fruit and I can see Parrot asleep," said Turtle. So Turtle went into Parrot's garden. Turtle ate some berries and he ate some mangoes. "What a feast!" he said. Suddenly, Parrot woke up. When he saw Turtle in his garden, he was very angry.
"Stop! Thief!"
he squawked. Turtle tried to get away. Parrot caught Turtle by the leg.
"Now I've got you,"
he said, and he took Turtle to his house.
"I am hungry,"
said Parrot.
"I'll make some delicious turtle soup."
He put Turtle in a big bowl. Then he looked in his recipe book. "I don't want to be soup," said Turtle. While Parrot went to get wood for the fire, Turtle tried to get out of the bowl. Turtle wiggled and wriggled with all his might. The bowl wibbled and wobbled, and then it toppled off the table. The bowl landed on top of Turtle. "Ow!" said Turtle. After a while, Parrot came back with the wood. He couldn't see Turtle anywhere. He couldn't see the bowl. Then Parrot saw the bowl walking to the door. Parrot saw Turtle under the bowl.
"Stop!"
squawked Parrot. Parrot pecked and pecked at the bowl, but he couldn't get Turtle out. Under the bowl, Turtle walked out of the garden.
"Stop! Stop!"
cried Parrot. Under the bowl, Turtle walked into the sea.
"Stop! Stop!"
cried Parrot. Under the bowl, Turtle swam away, and that is how the turtle got his shell.
Who was the turtle's neighbor? A parrot, a rabbit, a crab, a snake.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本集内容由海豚传媒出品。
One day, a cat came into Mrs. Clark's garden. He was very thin. "Come in, cat," she said. She gave him some food and called him Tom. That day, Mrs. Clark cooked fish for her dinner. When she wasn't looking, Tom jumped up and ate it. "Tom, you are a very bad cat," said Mrs. Clark. Tom looked very sad. The next day, Mrs. Clark cooked meatballs for her dinner. When she wasn't looking, Tom jumped up and ate them. "Tom, you are a very bad cat," said Mrs. Clark. Tom looked very sad. The next day, Mrs. Clark went shopping. First, she bought some meat. Next, she bought some onions. Then, she bought some tomatoes. Last of all, she bought some red hot peppers. When she got home, Mrs. Clark made a pot of chili. First, she put in 1 hot pepper. She tasted a little bit. "No good," she said. Then she put in 2 hot peppers. She tasted a little bit. "Wow!" said Mrs. Clark. Her hair stood on end. Her tongue hung out, and steam came out of her ears. "Very good," she said. "Very hot." Mrs. Clark put some chili on the table, and then she waited. After a while, Tom jumped up and ate a little bit. "Meow," said Tom. His hair stood on end. His tongue hung out, and steam came out of his ears. He ran to his bowl and drank all the water. He ran to the fish tank and drank all the water. "Come here, Tom," laughed Mrs. Clark. She gave Tom some ice cubes. Tom purred. "Don't ever steal again," said Mrs. Clark, and Tom never stole again.
What did Tom look like at the beginning of the story? He was thin. He was fat. He was dirty. He was silly.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本集内容由海豚传媒出品。
No ball games. Katie and Dad went to the wildlife park. Katie took her new red ball with her. "We can play with it in the park," she said. On the way into the wildlife park, they saw a sign. It said, "No ball games." "Hold on to the ball," said Dad, "and no ball games." First, they went to see the tiger. The tiger wasn't growling. The tiger wasn't playing. He was just walking up and down, up and down, up and down his den. He didn't have much to do. Then they went to see the elephants. Katie stared at the baby elephant, and the baby elephant stared back. "Do you like my new red ball?" asked Katie, and she started gently bouncing her ball. Suddenly, the baby elephant stretched out her trunk and took Katie's ball. "Give me back my ball!" shouted Katie. With a snort from her trunk, the elephant snorted the ball over the wall. With a splash, the ball landed in the sea lion's pool. The sea lions jumped up and played with the ball. "Give me my ball!" shouted Katie. Then, with a flick of his flippers, the big sea lion flicked the ball over the wall. With a thud, the ball landed on the chimpanzees' island. 3 chimpanzees played with the ball. "Give me my ball!" shouted Katie. One chimpanzee jumped out of a tree. With a long, hairy arm, he threw the ball over the lake. With a splat, the ball landed on a muddy hippopotamus. The hippopotamus didn't see the ball. The ball bounced off the hippopotamus and landed in the farmyard corner. "Give me my ball!" shouted Katie. The billy goat hit the ball with his horns and tossed it up into the air. The ball flew through the air and landed in the tiger's den. It had been all over the wildlife park. "Give me my ball!" shouted Katie. "Grrr!" growled the tiger. With a big, striped paw, the tiger pushed the ball around his den. Then the tiger jumped on the ball, chased it around his den, and tossed it up into the air. He was having a great time. "You can keep my ball," said Katie.
Which of the following animals is a wild animal? Lion, cow, rabbit, dog.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
The Giant and the Frippet. At the top of a tree lived a small, brown frippet. At the bottom of the tree lived a giant. The giant was a kind giant. He liked all the animals in the wood. All the animals liked him. One day, the giant invited everyone to a picnic. The frippet didn't want to go, and he didn't want the giant to have a picnic. So, when the giant was playing with the animals, the frippet ran down the tree and took the giant's picnic. The giant looked for his picnic, but he couldn't find it. The giant knocked at the frippet's door. "Knock, knock." "Have you got my picnic?" asked the giant. "No, I don't have it," said the frippet. But he did. One night, the giant was reading a bedtime story. "Shh," said the frippet. "Stop reading that story. I can't sleep." The next day, when the giant was chopping some wood, the frippet ran down the tree and took the giant's book. The giant looked for his book, but he couldn't find it. The giant knocked at the frippet's door. "Knock, knock." "Have you got my book?" asked the giant. "No, I don't have it," said the frippet. But he did. That night, the wind blew and blew. The wind shook the tree, and the frippet fell out of his house. He fell all the way down to the foot of the tree. "Help!" he cried. The giant saw the frippet falling. He put out his hand, and the frippet fell into it. The giant took the frippet into his house and gave him some food. Then the giant put the frippet to bed and read him a story.
I'm sorry I took your book, said the Fribbit, and I'm sorry I took your picnic. I'll never do that again.
From that day on, the giant and the Fribbit were good friends.
What was the giant like? The giant was kind. The giant was tough. The giant was shy. The giant was mean.
《屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长》。本集内容由海豚传媒出品。
Korka, the mighty elf. Korka was a very small elf. He was smaller than all the other elves on Elf Hill. Korka always wanted to help the big elves. "You are too small to help us," said one of the big elves. "Just go home." That night, a big, bad troll came to Elf Hill. The troll jumped on the elf houses and squashed them. The elves ran away into the wood. Korka was in bed asleep. He was dreaming. In his dream, he was Korka the mighty knight, saving his people from fright. Suddenly, Korka heard a loud crash. He opened his eyes and saw a big troll foot. Korka's bed was stuck on the troll's foot. Then the troll ran back to his cave. Korka jumped off the troll's foot. "I'm glad the troll did not see me," said Korka. When the troll got back to the troll cave, he boasted to other trolls, "I jumped on the elves' houses and I squashed them," he laughed.
We want to do it too,
said all the trolls. Korka was hiding in the cave. He heard what the trolls said. "Oh no," said Korka. "I must stop the trolls." Korka didn't know what to do. Then he had an idea. When the trolls were not looking, he took some soap and a long pipe. Korka put the soap into the troll's stew. It made lots of bubbles. The trolls ate the stew. It made them feel sick. They moaned and they groaned and they had to lie down. Korka stood in front of the fire. His shadow was very tall. Then he took the pipe and said, "I am Korka, the mighty elf." Korka's voice was very loud. The trolls were very scared. They screamed and they squealed and they all ran away. The elves saw the trolls running away and they came out of the wood. The elves were proud of Korka. "Thank you," they said. "You may be the smallest elf, but you are the mightiest elf of all."
Who was Korka? Korka was a very big elf. Korka was a knight.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本集内容。
Miss Roberts' class was planning the school fete. They wanted to raise money for homeless children. "We need to make some signs," said Miss Roberts. "Joe, could you make one for the cake table? Tina, could you make one for the hot dog stand?" "James," said Miss Roberts, "will you see to the flyers? We'll need lots of them to bring in the crowds. Brainstorm some ideas and then use the computer." James went to the computer room. "Where can I find lots of flyers for the school fete?" he thought. Then he had some ideas. He sent an email to the airport. It said, "Our school is having a fete to raise money for homeless children. Please, can you send us an airplane?" Soon an email came back from the airport. "We will see what we can do," it said. "Yes," said James. Then he sent an email to the bird center at the zoo. It said, "Our school is having a fete to raise money for homeless children. Please, can you send us some birds to show at the fete?" An email came back. It said, "We will see what we can do." "Yes," said James. Then James sent an email to the butterfly farm. He sent an email to the toy shop. Just then, Miss Roberts came in. "How are you getting on with the flyers?" she asked. "Don't worry, Miss Roberts," said James. "There will be lots of flyers for the school fete." "Good," said Miss Roberts. The day of the school fete came. James was pleased because the flyers had arrived. Miss Roberts was worried because very few people had arrived. There was a man from the butterfly farm with lots of colorful butterflies. There was a woman from the toy shop with balloons and kites. There was a man feeding an owl that sat on his hand. There was a small airplane buzzing overhead. Suddenly, the airplane landed in the school playing field. The pilot got out. "Just what you think you are doing," said Miss Roberts crossly. "He's one of the flyers," said James. "What do you mean, James?" asked Miss Roberts. Then she saw the butterflies, the kites, and the birds. "Oh, James," she said, "I didn't mean that kind of flyers. I meant publicity flyers to let people know about the fete." "I have an idea," said James, and he ran over to the school fence. James came back carrying the school fete banner. He gave it to the pilot. James and the pilot climbed into the airplane and took off. A big banner flew out behind the airplane. It said, "Come to the most amazing school fete ever." Lots of people saw the banner and came to the school fete. The school raised lots of money for homeless children. Television people came to see James. They asked about the flyers. "This is the best school fete we've had," said Miss Roberts. "With some of the best flyers ever. Well done, James."
Who did Miss Roberts' class raise money for? The dropout students. The homeless children.
腿小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
Is the wise owl wise? This is a story about an owl who looked very wise and looked very clever. This owl hunted for his food at night. In the day, he slept on the best branch of his tree. Owl did not shut his eyes. He kept them open just a little bit. It made him look very clever. The animals in the forest saw him and said, "He looks so wise. He looks so clever." There was a pond in the forest, and in the pond lived many frogs. One summer, it didn't rain. All the water in the pond dried up. The frogs got very hot. "What shall we do?" they said. "Let us go and ask Owl. He'll tell us what to do. He looks so wise. He looks so clever." The frogs told Owl about the pond. "What shall we do?" asked the frogs. "What do you think you should do?" hooted the owl. "We think that we should hide under big, cold stones and wait for the rain," said the frogs. "Then do it, do," said Owl. So the frogs hid under big, cold stones and waited for the rain. When the rain came, the pond filled with water and the frogs were happy again. In the autumn, it got cold. Some of the birds were cold and hungry. "What shall we do?" asked the birds. "Let us go and ask Owl. He'll tell us what to do. He looks so wise. He looks so clever." So they went and asked Owl. "What do you think you should do?" hooted Owl. "We think we should fly away to where the sun shines every day," said the birds. "Then do it, do," said Owl. So they flew away to where the sun shines every day. The birds were happy again. When winter came to the forest, it began to snow. The snow covered some of the animals. They were very cold. "What shall we do?" they asked. "Let us go and ask Owl. He'll tell us what to do. He looks so wise. He looks so clever." So they went and asked Owl. "What do you think you should do?" hooted Owl. "We think that we should sleep until spring," said the squirrels and the badgers. "We think that we should put on warm winter coats," said the foxes and the rabbits. "We think that we should keep each other warm," said the little birds.
"We think that we should keep a hole open in the ice,"
said the ducks. "Then do it, do," said Owl. So the squirrels and the badgers slept until spring. The foxes and the rabbits grew warm winter coat. The little birds found a hole in a tree and kept each other warm. The ducks took turns sitting on a hole in the ice so they could get to their food. The animals were all happy. "Owl is so wise. Owl is so clever," they said. "He told us what to do and he was right." Owl hadn't really told them anything. Owl was not really wise. Owl was not really clever. Owl was asleep. He sat on the best branch of his tree and dreamed he was catching mice.
Please match the characters with the pictures.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
The perfect pizza. Mom was ill. She was in bed. Jack and his little sister Kate wanted to make Mom feel better. Let's make Mom a pizza, said Jack. How do you make pizza? Asked Kate. It's easy, said Jack. You make a pizza base. Then you add toppings. What are toppings? Asked Kate. They are your favorite things to eat, said Jack, like pepperoni or mushrooms. You can ask Mom what toppings she likes. Kate went upstairs to ask Mom, but Mom was fast asleep. I'll ask Dad, thought Kate. Kate went to see Dad. Dad was in the study. Dad, what is Mom's favorite thing to eat? Asked Kate. Chocolates, said Dad. I saw some in the box up there. Dad gave the box of chocolates to Kate. Kate went to see Grandma. Grandma was in the garden. Grandma, what is Mom's favorite thing to eat? Asked Kate. Marshmallows, said Grandma. I have some in my pockets. Grandma gave the marshmallows to Kate. Then Mrs. Price from next door peeped over the fence. Are you having a picnic, Kate? Asked Mrs. Price. No, said Kate. These are for Mom. She's ill. She's in bed. Oh dear, said Mrs. Price. Here are some ginger biscuits for her. Your mom loves ginger biscuits. Kate went back to the kitchen. She gave the chocolates, marshmallows, and ginger biscuits to Jack. Chocolates, marshmallows, and ginger biscuits? Are these Mom's favorite toppings? Asked Jack. Yes, said Kate. Jack put the toppings on the pizza. Then he put the pizza in the oven. Soon there was a wonderful smell. Dad came into the kitchen. Grandma came into the kitchen. Mrs. Price came into the kitchen. Last of all, Mom came into the kitchen. What is that wonderful smell? She asked. It's pizza, said Jack. Try some. Chocolates, said Mom. Marshmallows. Ginger biscuits. My favorites. Who chose the toppings? They did, said Kate.
What did Jack and Kate make for Mom? They made a sandwich. They made a gingerbread man. They made a pizza.
屯小萌阅读陪伴，快乐成长。本期内容由海豚传媒出品。
That's not my hobby. In school today, my teacher said, write a letter to a friend telling them about your hobby. I do not have a hobby, so I did not write the letter. You must find a hobby, Katie, and you must write the letter, said my teacher. So now I have to find a hobby. Chris has a hobby. He swims every day. My ears get blocked up when I go swimming, so swimming is not my hobby. You could play the drums, said Jan. Drumming is a good hobby. Jan taps all the time. I asked my mom about drums, but she said no, just no. So drumming is not my hobby. Mrs. Jones next door said, why not try knitting? Knitting is a good hobby. I will teach you. I tried knitting, but my knitting got smaller, not bigger. So knitting is not my hobby. Dad said I could go running with him. Okay, I said, but his running is not what I call running. He took ages to get ready. Then he stopped to talk to other joggers. He talked about feet. He talked about backs. He talked about feet again. So running with Dad is not my hobby. You could try cooking, said Mom. I liked cooking. I made a great pie, but then I had to do the washing up. Real cooks have helpers to wash up, I said. I am a real cook, said Mom. You can be my helper. So cooking is not my hobby. You could try gardening, said Grandpa. So I helped Grandpa pull out weeds. The next day, the weeds were back. These are new weeds, said Grandpa. New weeds or old weeds. Gardening is not my hobby. Video games are a good hobby, I said. No, they're not, said my mom. Find a hobby outside. You could wash my car, said my brother Tom. So I washed Tom's car, well, some of it. Washing cars is not my hobby. Then I got a letter. It was from a boy in Canada. He wanted to be my pen pal. His letter was cool. It said, Dear Katie, my teacher asked me to write a letter to a pen pal. He told me to write about my hobby, but I don't have a hobby. So, nice to meet you. Stay cool, Adam. Next week, my teacher asked, Did you write the letter? Yes, Mrs. Riley, I said. I write to my pen pal all the time. My pen pal writes to me. We write about all the things we do. Writing letters is my hobby.
What did the teacher ask the students to do in class? To find a hobby. To find a friend. To write a letter to a friend.